You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Hey, you're listening to Adulting with Horses, the best place to be if you can't be at the barn. We are your co-hosts and equine authors, Heather Wallace and Natalie Keller-Reinert. As crazy horse girls, we don't take ourselves too seriously in the saddle or out. We celebrate the things that make us different. Join us as we talk about horses and pop culture and get a little weird in a fun way. Thank you for being a little weird with us. This episode is brought to you by Farnam and Endure Gold Killer Fly and Mosquito Control, a new fly spray for horses. Discover fly protection redefined with Endure Gold, made to annihilate flies, ticks, and mosquitoes with brand new EPA-approved ingredients never before seen in equine care. Endure Gold is backed by science and built for hard work, delivering fast knockdown and up to 14 days of fly protection. Add Endure Gold to your arsenal and upgrade your fly control rotation. Welcome, Natalie. It's good to see you.
Thanks. Can you tell I just woke up?
No, I'm so impressed, actually. You woke up just for me?
Well, I mean, I woke up 5 minutes or so before you texted me.
It's better than last week.
You know, I have a lot of calendars, and I usually write down podcasts on the calendar next to my desk. And I looked at it yesterday, and I thought, that's funny. I didn't write down my podcast time next to my desk. And then I did not go and look and see what time it was this week.
And you just waited for me to text you a link?
I did. It never occurred to me it would be Monday. Because we've been doing it on Tuesday, I think, for like several weeks now.
I think we're all over the place. It's like wherever we can find
I know,
a break.
I fell into a pattern. And then,
that's a real mistake with me. Like a real problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought, wow, life's so easy now, so smooth. I know exactly when, and then it was like, oh, you better get out of bed, bitch.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could have done tomorrow. I don't know. I feel like it's weirdly synced up with my housekeeper coming and cleaning my house. Like, I don't know why. She alternates Mondays and Tuesdays, and I think we're literally on the same schedule. It's so annoying.
That would be hard to live with.
Right. So I'm in my little studio in the garage for these last couple. So, at least I have a place to go. Yeah. Anyway, what can I say?
Third place is your garage.
This will be your room coming up when you come for the Maryland book signing event.
Oh my gosh. Anybody who sees like video clips of this they're going to know where I sleep. That's weird.
Yeah, don't worry. I'll change the bedding. And there's a lock on the door to keep me out from
Yeah, that's important.
Yes, you don't want any strangers in your room or people you know. Anywho, speaking of strangers, I was thinking the other day something interesting happened, and I like to keep clients private. But something weird happened, and I want to talk about it. It has to do with boarding facilities.
Ooh.
Are you down?
Yes, I'm always talking about boarding facilities. I mean, of all the things like what you talk about with horses, everybody always has something to say. It's like real estate in New York.
Oh yeah.
How much is that?
Everyone's got a story.
How much is that board? What's it like living there? What's it like boarding there? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, and it's crazy because I'm at so many different barns. I mean, I got
the blue book to New Jersey boarding barns.
It's insane. Like if I were ever to leave my barn, I mean, I've got like a Rolodex of like what I like, what I don't like, who I'd go. But so it's funny because people do call me. So I had a call from a client the other day who her barn got bought out, and it started off okay, and then what happens is the lawyers start getting involved with the new owners, and they start freaking out about lawsuits and liability, and now there's like a binder of rules.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like
is
it
this
went.
A thing that happens at boarding barns. Like
this happened
rules?
to 2 different clients I've had in the last 3 years, where the barn's been bought over, the lawyers freak out, and suddenly There is a huge amount of rules. And my boarder, and she's awesome. She's been at this barn for years, and she even helped them transition. She is like, Heather, I need to get the fuck out. Like, this is insane. Like I don't even want to go into the rules too crazy, but one of them,
a few of them, yeah, like
yeah, no, one of them was that they, again, no names. One of them was that no one was allowed to ride anybody else's horses, right? So, like, say for example, my pony is acting out, right? Yeah. And I have a friend, or he's being perfect, right? But, I want to go on a little trail ride around the property, and I have a friend who takes lessons there, and she's already under their insurance. She's already takes lessons. She does all the things. And I say, like, oh, hey, do you want to pop up on my pony? Or my daughters come that don't currently ride there, and I say, oh, why don't you pop up on Ferris and we'll take a little walk around? No, the people who ride, if it's not your horse, they have to have trainer licenses.
Where's that coming from?
Most of the trainers in the United States are not even licensed.
Who's licensing trainers? No one. What are they talking about?
And they have to have insurance.
Are they getting it from the New Jersey racing? Like, who's
well?
Giving
So
them?
So there is a racing background for some of the people who bought the barn.
Really?
But these are dressage riders and trail riders and like adult Amies. And so she's like, so if I want someone to hop up on my horse who's like totally safe and I want to see them go so I can look for lameness or anything like that, like they're not allowed to. They're physically not allowed to. They're not allowed to have a farrier in unless they pre-approve the person and the time frame with the owners. Like there has to be like, it's so rigid,
insane, and it's freaking me out.
No, I mean, it was freaking me out. I got this phone call the other day. She's freaking out. I'm like, my mouth was jaw dropped. I mean, and it's hard to silence me.
Yes. I mean, I previously, I thought I worked at the most insane boarding facility in the United States of America. Like, I fully would have believed that until that statement about it was the licensing that really hit me. So right. I used to be a manager at Grand Cypress Equestrian Center, which no longer exists for a really good reason. It was being run by insane people, and it was owned by a golf resort.
Oh.
And so we were reporting to people who had no idea
right.
how horses worked, how boarding worked, how students worked, any of it. And that just sounds like something they would have said. They're like, well, are these riding instructors licensed? And you could say yes.
Right.
You could say yes because you could make anything up and they would be like, I see. But if they had looked into it at all, I think they would have run screaming even faster than they did when it's like, oh, by the way, nothing outside of a few very specific like professional disciplines is regulated in any way, shape, or form by any governing body that has any insane. Tolerance for risk. And everything else, it really is up to the lawyers. But to say nobody else can ride your horse that you own?
They own, right. It's not a barn horse. These are all adult amateurs. This is not a performance barn. I should note. This is not a performance barn.
This is a place where you go hang out with your friends and ride your horse.
Right. Ooh. And they're limiting hours, and apparently they're shutting down the barn every day. I can't even with this because I know what your reaction is going to be.
Oh my God.
Guess what time they close?
Oh my God. Don't say like 5 o'clock.
3 p.m.
What? I feel like can't the boarders sue at this point? Like they're paying money for something they cannot access? Like this is what? 3 o'clock? I can't even. Afternoon?
I can't
Eastern
even.
Standard Time.
And so, like everything she said, it was like a cry for help. So clearly she was like, I need to get the fuck out of here. Like this is absolutely nutso.
I have to go back to bed.
No, and she called me and she was like, what's your board? Is there any availability? And, my facility was out of her price range, which is totally understandable. And, she wanted to look closer to home and all these things. And I'm like trying to help her find a place. I'm giving her names and I'm like, oh, I know people at this barn, if you want me to connect you, blah, blah, blah. But it's funny because I was thinking about it. Now, I live in the suburban areas of New Jersey, okay? Like I am not a multimillionaire. I do not own my own property. Like,
yeah, that's really disappointing. You should work on that.
I should, right? Like buy my books. So I I have a cute little house, a cute yard. Horses do not fit on my property,
No.
nor are they zoned for it. So I must have a boarding facility. And it took me a Goldilocks situation to find the right fit, right? It was like, this barn's too big, this barn's too small, this barn is just right. It took a minute. So I have other clients who have actually made a very unique, but maybe not so unique decision. And their barn was moving to a different facility. Like, the whole barn was giving up the lease, moving to a different facility, and they had 3 horses. So they were like, it's farther away. The board's going to raise. Like, it just doesn't make sense for us.
Mm-hmm.
So they were looking for a new place. And the person who owned the property said, we'll lease you these stalls for a dry cost, right? Dry stalls. And she decided to stay at the barn and ended up saving some money and outsourcing, manure and feed and all that stuff. And she pays less than she did when she was at a full equestrian facility.
Yeah. I think dry stalls might be kind of a regional thing. I don't think they're super available in lots of places. I remember when I lived in Maryland, I remember seeing them. There was a lot of it available in Virginia. So I think, like, for some reason, some of the barns in Virginia, like, had satellite areas where you could rent stalls or rent pasture. And then in Ocala, it's definitely a thing in this area where you could say, hey, I'd like to rent a barn, or I'd like to rent 3 dry stalls or whatever. And you can do it. And I really feel like the first time I ever heard about that, I was like, that's what I want to do.
Right.
I want to take care of my own horses. I want to handle the responsibility on my own. I don't want other people in the mix. That just fits my personality really, really well.
Yeah.
And you
does not get along with others.
Right, exactly. And you can cobble it together really well. Like, I like the idea of, like, well, I'm going to lease this, but I can't make time in my schedule to do the feed and the muck. So I'm going to get a freelancer to handle that. Why not? It turns into your own little side hustle, unfortunately, but what doesn't?
No, it's true. And in addition to dry stalls, we also have self-care, which is, people will do it. It's at a facility that is managed by somebody, but they will come in, and instead of having full care, which is, feed, blanket, manure, muck, all that stuff, turn in, turn out, the person does it themselves, but something's like overseen, right?
Yeah.
So they do kind of a co-op style, which is like, say I work Monday, Wednesday, Friday really late, I can arrange for my, my other stallmate to go, or the person who's a field next to me to go do that work. And then I do it Tuesdays, Thursdays for them. Right.
If you have the right personality mix, that is such a great idea.
Well, that's the thing. And then, but I've found a lot of times, there's pros and cons to it all. Right.
Sure.
The reason I chose full board, besides the fact that I don't have property, is that, I travel so much, and I can't always get to the barn, and I know they're well taken care of. Like, I get updates regularly. Mm-hmm. My barn owner loves them like they were hers, because one of them was hers, and I know that. But when you go, it would be a hell of a lot cheaper for me to do self-care or a dry stall, but then I'd have to rely on other people to help me out. And, like, what if they don't feed my horse? What if they, show up late and they don't have water? And, like, that would send me into an hour.
Yeah, I think you have to have a personality that can tolerate that, which I don't.
Me neither.
You also you have to really trust whoever you're with. Excuse me. So, like, if, I feel like you and I, right, could rent stalls. And
right.
That Natalie's night to feed, they may get
I know it'll get done.
It'll get done. They might get fed late because I'm bad with time. But they'll get a scrubbed water bucket. Like, I won't cut any corners. I'll stay till midnight if I have to make sure everything is perfect and the aisle is swept, because that's my own brand of crazy. So you can find somebody with that brand of crazy who also isn't going to freak out at you, which is difficult.
Well, and it's funny because people think I'm type B, but I'm really like, I'm like a type C personality. Like, if I say I'm going to do something, it is going to get done, and it's going to get done quality, right? So, but what I found was really interesting, like is the boarding facility, right? I've seen 2 big boarding facilities in my area shut down, and it's multiple reasons, but is it kind of like these big barns? Are they almost on their way out for other, because are they too expensive? for most adult AMIs, as people kind of leave and go to rural areas or choose the self-care option? Like, is this a pattern?
I think that if the economy is dictating, hey, people can't casually afford or work multiple jobs to afford these big over-the-top facilities, there's an awful lot of nice to haves at big boarding stables. You know what I mean? Like, I started out at a hunter barn where everything was perfect and it was beautiful. And within a year, I was renting a stall with a little turnout in the back.
Oh, I love
that was
those.
basically made of driftwood, and was, attached to a pasture. And whenever it was time for the horses to come in, somebody would just open the gate, and whatever horse came through would run to their little stall, and then you would feed them. Like, it was the polar opposite.
Right.
And if anybody's ever heard of a Florida barn in apostrophes, this was a Florida barn. Like, the most extreme example I can think of. And it worked, right? It was fine. It provided everything that I needed for a tenth of the cost of the fancy barn.
Right.
I was 12. I felt like I needed jumps, and I felt like I needed an arena, and I needed a friend with a trailer, and all of these things. And I had all of these things literally for a tenth of the cost. I just had to muck my own stall and get used to getting wet because there wasn't an aisle. It was just a long line of stalls, no real overhangs.
No,
I
yeah.
just think that, everything is so crazy expensive. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And maybe the amenity heavy barn is just, you have to evaluate what you really need. Or
Yeah.
a lot of people are going to be evaluating what they really need. And a lot of times I think you can find, hey, you know what? A stall and a pasture is cool. Fine.
Well, and I think that's why my one client decided to stay. I mean, so of course, she had 3 horses. It was more cost effective for her to stay. It was closer to her. What she ended up doing, this is actually phenomenal. I was so impressed by it. She turned the tack room into an office. So she now works from there. So she's there all day. She's able to be on site as needed. She's with her horses, so she's spending more time with them. She's making it work, right?
Yeah.
So this move ended up being better for her, not only for cost, but for access to her horses. So she's paying less money for more horses, and she just has to do a little bit more work, but it fits her life better. And
I think that's cool.
yeah, she ended up getting 2 more horses because she did need companion animals for 1 or 2, if they were to take them out or whatnot. And she had to kind of rejig the paddock system. But, listen, it's a lot of responsibility. There's another barn next to me that actually one of my clients went to for a retirement facility. So when I first started riding again, which, if you can believe it, has been 17 years ago, I got back into riding. I still feel like a newbie, I'll be honest. And so when I came back, I started at this barn, and it was it had 2 big barns and an indoor, and they were building a 3rd barn, right? Mm-hmm. So this is 17 years ago. They were growing. Now, fast forward about 7 years ago, they took one of those bigger barns at the new barn, and they rented it out to a whole other equestrian program. Right. So now there's 2 barns that are working out of the same facility. Right. Yeah. Now, fast forward to this year, that person who owns that property has now, most of her boarders have left to go to other places because of various reasons, mostly her personality. Yeah. And that's why I left. And her whole other barn is now a retirement facility. So now there's 3 barns working out of this facility, and she's got the little barn.
Oh, man.
And I'm seeing a trend here where it is almost unsustainable for people to own and run an equestrian facility unless you are that performance level barn. And even one of the performance barns in my state, bankrupt.
Yeah.
They just filed for bankruptcy.
The double whammy of this economy and the personality issue can really can really take a trainer down, because you will put up with a certain amount for performance for so long. But once you are out there, if you're on the circuit, if you're getting to know people, if you're talking, you're like, oh, wait, so there's somebody out there that isn't abusive and that won't, make me feel terrible all of the time and take all
Or,
the money.
that the fences will be fixed when they're broken, or my horse will have water. Like,
The priorities will match your priorities.
well, that's the funny thing. So this barn that all this crap just went down, they spent all this money updating the indoor that was fine. The footing was fine, everything was fine, but their fences suck, and they didn't update the fences.
Oh my God.
And people are like, why are we paying so much more money, but they're not prioritizing the right things? And, listen, no one's going to run a barn the way you would run a barn, right? It's such a personal choice. So you have to pick what you can live with and what fits best. But I'm concerned that like most barns aren't going to be able to sustain this long term.
I don't see how they can. I don't see how I live in an area that's very horsey, and full board at a facility that, feeds 3 times a day and turns in and turns out and all this other stuff that horses don't give a shit about. It starts at $1,000 a month to keep a horse, right? In Florida, we're paying $1,000 a month in Florida. Like, what has this world come to? I'm sorry to say it, but I can't believe it.
If I told you what it was here, you would literally cry.
I believe that I would. And, and like, just to be in a state where like nobody can find jobs. If you have a job, you're probably going to get laid off, and housing costs a fortune, and insurance costs a fortune, and you're still going to go bankrupt if you accidentally cough for too long and have to go to the doctor. And yet $1,000 a month for somebody to feed your horse 3 times a day is just like, I understand the underlying economics of feed and hay and help, all of these things. I get it because I have done those transactions and I have paid those checks. But whenever I'm budgeting for my farm, I'm always like, how do I keep my horses around $10 a day? That's always like, that's the interesting golden number for when I'm like budgeting hay and I'm looking at things like, how am I feeding? I try to keep my feed costs, which is my daily maintenance, is my feed cost, right? And then because there's a physical cost, which is keeping the pastures going. It takes a great physical toll, actually, but it's hard to quantify that economically. So I, from a financial standpoint, I'm like, how are my hay and feed costs? Around $10 a day, and I like to keep it there. And that's what I'd be paying for at a boarding facility, right?
Right.
It's mostly feed and somebody to muck out. Well, my horses live outside because they're horses, and that's what they're made for. And
to not delight.
Delight. Well, I mean, if he lives someplace where there wasn't really like a winter and he had a nice,
it's summer, that's for him.
Run-in shed.
Yes. I would, if I had someplace
you can have a run-in shed with a fan, and it's still not like, here, go in your stall for 8 hours, stand there and poop everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like when he was at the sanctuary, he was pretty much out 24/7 unless it was like a superiorly terrible day. But I'll tell you right now, he would fight for that fan. Like, he hates bugs so much. I mean, he is my child. But it's funny because I prefer to have my horses out, like, unless it's bad, as long as I have cover. Yeah. But like, I think my board is basically a mortgage. And so I now am paying 2 mortgages right now. And it's killing me slowly, because what happens too, and there's no shade, like I understand why, but like over the winter, they raise the price of hay because of the, prices have gone up and they need more hay. But you know what? That never goes back down. Like, so like she kept that. So every year you're adding more and more, and slowly the bill's creeping up, and I can only work so many hours a day, and it's becoming like, oh my God, is it better for me to just move to rural Pennsylvania when my kids go to college, have a little facility, take care of my own horses, and then work less?
Yeah.
That sounds better to me.
It is better. And that's the thing, is like, there's absolutely zero chance I would have horses if I couldn't just keep them at home.
Right.
Because there's just no way. I can never commit to how much board costs now. And I couldn't ask my family to commit to how much board costs now. You know what I mean? It's just, I just couldn't. There's no world in which that exists for me. Like, I contacted somebody last year interested in a lease, and I gave her an absolutely outrageous budget, because I was just spitballing. I was blue skying. I wanted to see what was possible for me if I wanted to compete. And she came back to me and said, well, if I find a free lease, then that sounds like it would fit into. I was like, that much money would go into board and lessons? And, you know, there's a whole separate conversation here about what people are paying to compete and what we're seeing online,
right?
And what we're seeing as attainable. And then once we start digging into the financials of it, it was like, oh no, that person is very rich. Like, they're not presenting rich,
right?
But they're rich.
They have to be.
And they might not know that they're rich, but they're rich, because that is just an egregious sum of money.
Well, and that's going to be a good topic that we're going to do another day, because, you know, I think I saw this online. There was a woman who was saying that she has aspirations to make it to Olympic level dressage, and like, what would that look like financially for her? And I'll tell you right now, the reason most people don't go for it is they don't have the capital, because you need that $500,000 horse. You need those really high level trainers. You need to be able to travel and pay for your horse to fly. You need to do all those things. Like, most of the riders we see go to the Olympics are sponsored.
Yes.
They are not paying for it themselves.
It's been that way for a really long time. It's exacerbated now by this insane economy situation. Right. But I remember I worked for a woman back when I was like, I think I was 18, maybe 17, who had really nice horses she showed in Wellington. We lived about 2 hours from West Palm. And she bought a new horse from Germany because she couldn't go any further with one of her horses because his walk was not good enough.
Oh, yeah.
His walk was not good enough. This was also a horse that she had imported from Germany. You know, it was just like, what do you mean? It's got he's a horse. He walks like a horse walks. Like, what the quality of gait thing is something that will never not blow my mind, because then you've just stepped out of I can train for this, which is dressage training. And so you're saying, well, you can train for this, but not good enough, babe, because but
that is what happens when you get to these higher levels. Like, what they do is, and obviously I see this a lot from like the team side of things. Like, it's okay, this horse will take me this far. Now what? Right. So now, and I've seen this happen on even Amis who have like desires to show. They will rack up these horses if they don't want to sell them. And so they have literally millions of dollars in horses sitting in a field, right? And so most of them do sell them in order to pay for the next one. But, you know, the amount of money that you pay just to get the partner, that does not include the training. And there's no guarantee that they'll be sound, that they will be healthy. One of my clients got in this horse, did not look great, passed the PPE just fine, but you could tell that there was a problem. They were sick. Within a week, it died of a massive impaction. And, I mean, they spent $250,000 on this horse.
Right.
You know, this is a gamble.
For it to be a horse and do what a horse does.
For it to be a horse. This is a gamble for people. So, like, when it comes to board, that's, you know, for me, that's the biggest cost, because, you know, I have a lot of... You know, Ferris was the only horse I really paid for, you know, and...
but it's for them, that's the maintenance.
Well, and that's it. And they wanted double, and I was able to talk them down significantly because of his health issues. And so, like, you know, but it's the maintenance, it's the ongoing. And so, you know, every year I get with him is a gift, but at the same time, every year he's getting more expensive.
Right.
And that includes his health care, that includes his supplements, and includes the board, because the board is not going to go down. It's going to keep going up.
Right. So, you know, if you're like, well, I'm going to have this professional show facility, you know, and charge everyone a mortgage a month to keep their horse because I'm keeping their horses in style and I'm providing these amenities and blah, blah, blah. It has to be pretty challenging to figure out your demographic and know if your area can even support the number of stalls that you want to put in. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, if you want to have, let's say, 30 people, that are able to pay multi-thousands per month to keep their horse in your stall, then the analysis, I can't even imagine doing the analysis. And I'm pretty sure this is why like Farm Bureau turns so many people away, is because you do a business plan and they're like, so you're in a semi-urban area where there's not much land, but you believe all of these people in these houses want to have show horses? And you're like, definitely.
Well, it's funny because, we're the Gold Coast of New Jersey. So we live where the governor lives down the street from me, not me personally, but where I used to live,
Right.
And
she lives on Dork Avenue. If anybody
yeah, totally.
Rich
And
I don't even know who the governor is. Please don't take that personally.
No, that's okay. And so, but we have a lot of celebrities, like Bon Jovi used to live down the street. Like, we have a lot of money. Now, that being said, not everybody in my county makes that money, including me, right? But we have all these people who have money to burn. And so everyone and their mother is like, oh, this just makes sense. I'll just work my way up and become a trainer and open my own facility. There's room for everybody. But then what happens is the market gets flooded. And now we have probably 6 to 8 barns within like a 10-mile radius. And they have to kind of keep in alignment with each other. So my barn, maybe when I first joined, was like $700 a month in board per horse. As everybody increases their prices, guess what? Everybody does keep up with the Joneses because they want to look like they're also that same quality. And suddenly it's like everyone's inflating their prices. And yes, cost of living is bigger. But if you look at Joe Schmo down the street and he's charging $2,000 a month for training board and you're charging $1,000, people are going to look at you as less than.
You're absolutely right. I remember that, like, in Maryland, where it was a proliferation of boarding like I'd never seen before. Such a horsey area. And you really, I had a friend at school whose, board was half of mine. And we were like, what's going on at her barn?
Right. What's that ghetto ass place,
Exactly.
No, and it is true. And so there is even here where we have Eastern Monmouth County is like the higher level, higher quality, higher priced barns. And then you have to go out to like Jackson, Howell, and further west into Western Monmouth County in order to see those prices drop. But guess what? No one thinks that they're the same quality. Like, and again, you do what is good for you. Like, I'm at a barn that's kind of in the middle. Like, I don't pay top tier. I can't. I physically could not do it. But I've gone farther west as I've had
physically coming out of your body.
100%. Like, I can only work so many hours a day. And so, I've been moving further west. I'm not a snob. I don't need to be at a performance barn. I usually don't even work at a lot of them because I don't like the mindset of throwaway horses.
Yeah.
When you get to a certain level. That's not me personally. But there's a reality where, like, eventually you move farther and farther into an area you can afford. And then at the end of the day, you're like, well, I might as well just get my own place.
Yep.
Like, I think that's where most people are going. I really do.
That's really interesting. I hope people are getting like the support that they need in order to make that transition and keep it going, because it's hard. Especially if you've been full board for a really long time, then you can really question your skills and what you've had to do for yourself versus like what your manager has done for you, what grooms have done for you. Like, I always question my skills when something dumb happens, because it does. I have
hoof crack.
Exactly. I have 2 horses. I haven't had a stable full of horses to take care of in many years. And yeah, so when something happens, I usually will call a professional and be like, hey, I need to check my work, because I don't know if I'm remembering correctly how to deal with this situation. And I don't have anybody to look. I don't have a friend. I have no friends. So that's a whole other thing by choice. And I don't have a friend.
And all the friends you do have only talk to you periodically because we know that you're a hermit.
My friends all live far away.
Yeah.
Is like the biggest problem. And my closest friend just moved farther away. So, someday I'll live 10 minutes from her, but that is not today. So, so you do, you end up, you can end up really questioning yourself, and you need support, and you can't get support online because everyone's insane. We know this.
Oh my God. I can't even with that.
Can you imagine if I had posted a picture when Ben came in with his hoof crack? If I posted a picture online, I probably could have broken all of Facebook if I put a picture on like a couple of horse groups. Because
and everyone would have started talking about his ligaments instead of his hooves. Like, they don't even answer the freaking question.
Yeah, they'd be like, wow, his pasterns are really long. I'd be like, yeah, I know. Like, I didn't build him myself. He came this way.
Yeah, I actually have a short story for that. So that actually happened to me, where a client of mine who I hadn't seen it since August. So this is 10 months, right, since I've seen this client. We did a saddle fit 10 months ago. She got the saddle in January, February. It had some cosmetic problems, and so she sent it back and got a whole new saddle. And since the new saddle came a month ago, she started having problems. So now this is 10 months after the original fit. He's getting a saddle. The first saddle worked. The second saddle didn't. And she's putting a picture with a copy of my report all over Facebook groups, right? So now my name is out there and it's making me look bad, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm like, do not respond, right? And she texts me. Oh, hey, can you come out? I think something's wrong with my horse. She's like acting out under saddle, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just looking at all these comments, just beep, 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 about like, oh, your saddle fitter doesn't know what she's doing. And, oh, you should talk to this. And now, mind you, the question wasn't about the saddle fit. It was about, can I have a sports vet recommendation because there's something going on. And this is why the saddle probably is not the problem, right? So like the whole thing was like, this isn't about the saddle fit, but everybody's looking at, right? Which again, fair. You should look at the saddle as the first, right? So like, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, I can't respond. Because if I do, and everyone's tagging me being like, oh, Heather should get checked, should check it, blah, 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 all these things. So the saddle maker comments, hey, could you please put the saddle in the correct position where the saddle fitter told you to? I liked it. I'm not going to lie. I liked the comment because I was like,
I wouldn't have been able to let that go. If that came across the feed with my name on it, I'd be like,
well, I wasn't tagged, which was nice, but people were tagging me as someone to like reach out to. But it's funny because yes, she had the saddle in the wrong position in the photo. So like, of course, everyone's thinking the saddle doesn't fit, right? Yeah. Fair. So me and the saddle maker are in perfect agreement, right? So she calls me. I go down. And I'm looking at it. I don't even say anything about the Facebook post. But again, everyone's commenting and they're not even answering her question. That's the problem with Facebook. Yes. So I look at it. The saddle is not the problem. The horse having, several months off was the problem. There was a muscle issue. And the horse was chiropractically very out. So I recommended a chiropractor. We did some muscle work. Guess what? Immediately horse stopped bucking. And so it's like, it's so easy for people to sit there and judge you and not know the whole story, but because they talk through their own lens.
Yeah. They're not really interested in like getting the whole story. They want to look at the picture and skim the words because we're in a literacy crisis.
And when they want to tell you what they think because everyone's looking to give their opinion right now.
Yeah.
It's so.
Facebook is the worst. I'm just.
I know. I do love it though, but I also hate it. It's
absolutely despise it, and I wish I didn't have to open it every day. And when I do, I am invariably outraged about something within 25 seconds. And there's so much AI, and people sharing AI. Stop sharing photos that are AI. So they're not photos that are about not wanting data centers. Do you not have any consciousness? Can you please ascend slightly to another level and read a book? AI is necessary because you use it, not because it's necessary. So data centers are necessary because you use AI that you don't need to use to make dumb pictures. Stop making them.
So I try not to throw too much shade at the ex, but I have a funny story.
I'm shading.
Okay. So are you ready?
Yeah.
So my daughters just left. They just were with me for like 5 days. And they were with him last weekend for like a party. And my daughter drove up to Rochester. So she's getting her hours in. And he's in the passenger seat. I just want to preface this. And they had a question. And he goes, well, let's ask ChatGPT.
Oh, my God.
Wait, no. It gets better. And they were like, Dad, why do you need to ask ChatGPT? Like, you're right there with your phone. Like, why don't you just Google it or whatever? And he goes, I can't see very well. They're like, do you have Siri? Like, so my Gen Z children, okay, Gen Z, I'm going to specify this.
Best.
Gen Z children who grew up knowing like AI is, right? they're like, Dad is so pathetic. He uses AI for everything. And I'm laughing because of course he does. Like, of course he does. Because Google isn't enough anymore, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, crack a fucking book, brah. You know? Like it wasn't even an important question. It was like, it was like something about like, it was like, what hours is this university open for touring or something like, it was like literally you could just look it up on Google Maps and it tells you, right? Or you could call the school. Like it's not hard. And he's using it for literally everything.
Yeah. We don't need water. You know, we're not in a drought. Well, we don't need to divert
well,
all of our
yeah,
water
I'm in a drought.
to AI whatsoever. It's fine.
It's ridiculous. So anyway, so I think overall, I think the equestrian facility as we know it has to make some changes if they want to stay open and viable, because it is unsustainable for people to stay in equestrian sport and be able to hold, like, and I'm not saying like, you know, lesson barn's great, but I'm talking just like equestrian facility period, like with borders, like private borders.
Do you think there should be more minimum product boarding facilities, like here is a barn, here is an arena, here is a pasture, as opposed to we have built the Shangri-La
the Disneyland?
Do you think there are too many, especially in high-income areas? Do you think maybe people are getting ahead of themselves and building too many high-end facilities and neglecting the everyday barn, you know, as like a product that the market needs?
Well, the problem is, I think they're not even building new facilities. What happens, I don't know, in my area is that there will be someone who owns like a 20-acre farm. The person bought it for real estate, but they are not horsey, so they rent it out to a trainer. The trainer then rents it out to boarders and lesson students.
Oh, so this is almost like a private equity situation.
This is a lot of and then what happens so there was a barn in Howell that I used to work at, and everybody had to leave because it was bought by like a hedge fund manager. Oh. And so the person who sold it moved down to Florida, and you know, like where it was.
Don't want him.
Yeah. And she sold her whole facility to this guy for millions of dollars. She aborted this estate, and he came in and he just started making all these changes, having zero experience with horses. Oh, gosh. And everybody left. And then he was like, great, blank slate. And then we're going to rent out to higher income people.
Oh, so just the classic New York City landlord technique.
It is 100%. Yes. And so people, and Jason was guilty of this for the same thing. So like there was a one point in our lives where Jason was like, you should see if this barn's for sale, and then we should run an equestrian facility. You can manage it and run it. You have friends who are trainers, and we'll make money. And I laughed in his face. I said, you will never make money. Like you will always be in a deficit. Half these people who run these barns end up going bankrupt because they can't pay their lease.
Right.
And, you know, like that's part of the problem is like the landlords keep upping the rent for them, for their taxes, etc. So everything is a trickle-down effect. And guess who loses? It's the lesson kids. It's the kids wanting to get into the sport who can't now afford it and their parents are flipping out. Or it's the boarders who have horses and are like, I don't know that I can still do this anymore because I can't afford it, or I can't retire now because I have to pay for my horses and my hobbies. So I think and again, this is more suburban areas. I'm only talking from my perspective.
Well, I think a lot of people
see a lot.
live in suburban areas, and I think that's probably the most common way to live in the United States. And I wonder if hobby farming and supporting hobby farming, like let's really figure out how it's okay and safe to keep a horse on 3 to 5 acres.
Right.
You know, for your region. I wonder if hobby farming and that kind of support is something that should be looked at really seriously by horse organizations who have the most vested interest in keeping people in horses, right? Like an organization, like a breed organization or something, you know, are they able to do some outreach and help people and say, hey, here's how you can keep 2 Morgans on 5 acres in this region, and this is how you can keep 2 quarter horses on 3 acres in this region, and that kind of thing, to keep amateurs in the game, because emphasizing professionals is not going to work.
No, and there's not that many of them either.
Right. It's just, it's because it's an unsustainable business model to begin with. So you're asking people to put their, drop their entire lives down the bucket of something which may or may not pan out, which will probably end in at least one bankruptcy, more likely several, even if they do make it to the Olympics. You can't put all your faith in the future of your breed and your business like that in just that group of people. You have to invest in your amateurs, and if they have nowhere to keep their horses, then they're gone.
Right. And how are we supposed to encourage the next generation of equestrians in the sport, right? Mm-hmm. The lesson barns are so integral to getting kids riding and falling in love with horses. So if they go away, our sport is on its way out. Like we have to subsidize this somehow, or do it in a way that like is manageable for people, because it's scary.
It makes me wonder, like, let's say you're in an area where 4-H is really strong in your community and your schools. What if a local, landowner, farmer is able to give some stalls and some space to a 4-H group, and they're able to form a co-op with their families and keep horses and get riding lessons and that kind of thing. Like, what if it became a grassroots thing to bring up children in the sport? And what if there were more nonprofits involved in keeping people, keeping horses accessible to people? I think that there's some potential there, and just like, bringing in these again, breed organizations, I think kind of should be looking in this direction. If they want people to buy their horses, then they need to keep growing the like pool of people that can.
Sure.
And so I think that a nonprofit approach to keeping people and bringing people in, I think there's something there.
Well, and I think that would be good for even the people who are looking to, like those equity buyers, right? Like those people who own the land. Like if you have a nonprofit, guess what? That's a tax relief right there. And so like, you might not be sitting, you still have the property, but then suddenly you have all these tax exemptions you didn't have before. And like, that is I love that idea. Actually, that's something really smart.
What if, what if you own, through your own ill-gotten gains as a rich person, you have 50 acres of prime land outside of New Jersey, and you contact the Pony Club and you say, let's form a nonprofit that gets kids in here taking riding lessons and developing their skills to get their Pony Club ratings so that they can be professionals.
I love that.
Right? It's that simple. Come on, you're rich, spend some money.
Yeah, we just need people to actually have, finance that and back that, But yeah, I think I'm glad we're talking about it, just because I think we're not talking about it enough. And I have a unique perspective because I do see a lot of different barns, and I've been doing this full time for 10 years, and there's been a lot of changes, and some of them are a little scary.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And, ever since I, was running the big barns down in Orlando, it was like, I've been thinking about sustainability and how to keep horse sports going for everyone for a really long time. That's, been something that I've presented on and been laughed at about in the past. Because I do think it usually comes down to cooperation and, co-op situations. And, or situations where we're doing a lease program where, the cost of this horse are shared by multiple people. And I've seen these things work in increments before. And I think there are ways to bring it all together and really change a model. And that's like the number one thing horse people don't want to do is change a model,
Oh, we're so traditional. It's like unbelievable.
So traditional. And it's just, it's not going to work. Got to fix this.
Well, it's all about we need to collab, right, instead of compete.
Yes.
And if we want our sport to progress, and
yeah, it's all got to be. There's got to be more collaboration and cooperation. And how are we going to fix this together? That's really it. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to say, oh, I'm going to go form a huge coalition across the country. What kind of coalition are you going to form with the couple other people in your barn?
Right, and then you do that. You figure out what works, what doesn't, and then you suddenly have a template for other people to use. Exactly. And then that grows. Look at the hobby farm, as you said. There's what about the hobby farm mentality? Like, 15 years ago, nobody had chickens on their own properties or small goats or mini cows or things. And suddenly all these people are going and buying these little properties and having these little hobby farms. And, change can happen. It's just slow. That's all.
And you'll have fun. I have fun.
I know.
I'm like the last person you would assume would be like, oh, she's going to go out and work on her pastures.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely my husband. I think he knows what hit him still. But we're having a great time. We love our farm. So do it.
And that's the most important thing. We got to love it, right? And so, I just think there's a fit for everybody. For me, the fit is a full board. And, I'm struggling to finance it. I'll be completely honest. I have multiple horses, and if I knew I'd be getting divorced and I would have a single income paycheck, I probably wouldn't have gone the multiple horses route, but I'm not willing to downgrade their lives or their quality of life because I had some bad things happen. And so, it just it's a little scary out there, and I want my friends to succeed. I want people to be able to do what they love. So we just have to talk about it.
We got to talk, guys. We got to talk.
Thank you for being a little weird with us, Horse Girl. If you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your player of choice. Follow us on Instagram at Adulting with Horses Podcast, or even better, join our Adulting with Horses Clubhouse on Facebook, where you can become part of the show. Also, it's a great place to meet other horse crazy women.